and also I'm going to add a link to a live document here. So for those of you who have been in the 3-part series, we've done a couple of sessions and we've been talking about selling past objections. So we've really spent a lot of time figuring out how we're going to approach our potential clients in a conversation. So last week we got to practice a little bit. We're going to do some more practice today. And Jill, I'll give you this document here. So, okay, so whoever needs the document, it's in the chat. But before we jump into that, I have a couple of things that I want to do. And then really what I want to do is I want to spend the last part of this just walking through these sales conversations, giving you the opportunity to practice with each other. And that way we can catch questions as they happen in the moment on, how you deal with certain objections, how you deal, what happens when the person's not ready. I mean, there's all kinds of questions and situations that come up in the sales process. So the first thing that I want to do is just open it up. And I want those of you who have been on the calls the last couple of weeks, how would you summarize what we've been doing and what the impact has been to the way that you look at sales? So it's a 2-part question there. What would you say that we've been doing and how has it impacted your view of sales?
I think my takeaway is you're focused on the customer. You're not focused on you. You're focused on what their needs are, what their wants are, really digging in deep into what their problem areas are. And then you're presenting your solutions. I feel like I probably always approach it as at a surface level of like, here I am, this is what I do, this is how I can help you. And then let me know, if you want to, want my help. And it definitely is an approach of putting them first. Mm-hmm. So, and not that I didn't have that mindset, but I guess my approach was just wrong. So I think that's kind of what it's helped me do. And it's helped me clarify how to say very succinctly what I do.
Right.
Give a very long explanation to the potential client, and then potentially losing them.
Yeah. Yeah. One of the things that we as women in particular do is we jump out in sales and feel like, we just have to prove ourselves and throw all of our credibility out there right off the bat. And then say, well, okay, if you want to get with me, go ahead. It's almost like we're afraid to invite any conversation when that's exactly what we need to be doing. We need to be inviting conversation. We need to be putting on the diagnostic hat. And so that's really this process that I've used in the course of my career. I mean, it's been one that invites relationship, that invites really hearing that person, and it works, and it's authentic. So it doesn't feel yucky and grody. And I mean, I've sat under sales coaches who had the most grody processes ever, and not just grody from a feeling standpoint, but 21 steps of selling, and who can remember 21 steps? And you're probably so busy thinking about all of those steps that you lose sight of the client. And that's where you lose sales right there. Someone else that has been here, what have you gotten so far from?
Well, I went last week and it was just a reminder that, it just because you might get rejection doesn't mean you let that stand in your way of asking. And not that it's a numbers game, you really want to help people, but that you can't be afraid to approach people because you might get rejected.
Right. Yeah. And I don't know if you remember me saying this last week, but we we're afraid of people rejecting us when it's actually, they're not rejecting us. It really is something that's working inside of them, and so I do want to go over, even before we start practicing, I do want to hit on the top 5 reasons people object to buying. And most of the time it has nothing to do with you. And I say most of the time because, first of all, they have to be ready. They have to have a real need. But sometimes we can just cut that sales conversation short because we're not inviting them into the conversation, or it is all about us. And it's like, oh, that's too much for me. So we want to make sure that we're managing that well. Okay. So I do want to go over the top 5 reasons people object to buying. And I went ahead and filled in these blanks on this new form or this blank slate that I have here. So you have to scroll down to see the top 5 reasons people object to buying. And so the first one, I'll share my screen here so you can see all this. I didn't animate this or anything to create any kind of mystery. You're just getting it all plopped down. The first reason people object to buying is because the way their brain is wired, and many are wired to say no. So I say that because most people, when they come into a new situation, survival mode kicks in. And so the natural inclination is to say no, because they need to think about it. They're not familiar with it. And so they want to prevent danger. It's a natural instinct in us. So most people are wired this way. They're automatically wired to say no. So automatically that tells us that it's nothing personal. It really has to do with their brain and the way that they think and process things. I don't know about you, but my daughter, whenever she asks me a question, or if she wants to go somewhere, I'm like, no. But then she'll come back and she'll give me reasons, and this is how it will help. And so I will many times say, oh, well, okay, that works. And so I will change my mind. Well, that's how people are in sales. Some of us are great moms and say, well, let me process that. Let me think about that. But even in sales, people say that, and it's not a no, but I will tell you that if you're not getting them to yes in the call, or at least, 70% there, the chances of them going off and thinking about it and saying yes is about 10%. That's the go around. So there will be 10% that come back. The 90% will just left to their own devices, they will talk themselves out of it. Oh, I can't afford this, or maybe this isn't the time for this. I have so much going on, and they let all of the daily life pile on and crowd out something that might be worthwhile for them. The second one is they don't think that they are worthy enough to make the investment. I see this happen all the time with women. So if you have a target audience of women, if it is a substantial investment that they're making, then there's always this, that's just too much. I've got my son's college that I'm paying for, and I need to pay off blah, 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 so there's always these rationalisms that pop up for them, and it always comes down to their self-worth. Now, I will say that in real estate, it's a little bit of a different ball game, because it's their homestead. They have to live in a home. So if there's an element there where it's part of a survival mechanism, that they have to live somewhere, they have to eat somewhere, that they'll respond a lot differently. And women in particular, they'll always go for the house that's higher. They will always go for the house that's higher. Okay, number 3, they are not clear on what the value is for them. Now, this is one where we have some culpability here. We can we have opportunities here to make sure that they're very clear on what they're getting. So for those of you that were on the call last week, we talked about quantifying things for people. And that requires us to say, hey, here's what you're getting for this. You're not just going to earn back $400 a month for your small investment of $49 a month, but you're also going to save time, because this is going to cut your time on the computer half off. I mean, so it's really helping them to understand clearly what they're getting. And I see a lot of people who are selling and they're not clear on the value. They're just trying to walk through a sales presentation, or they're just trying to plop things out there without it being well thought out. And then it causes confusion in people. So they really don't know what they're walking away from. They may think, oh, well, this person's trying to take me. They want me to sign up for this membership, and, it's not really any value to me. And so we have to be very clear about that value, and we have to think about that. It's not something you figure out in the spur of the moment. You got to think about, well, what would that client really want? What would be the ultimate for them that would just help their emotions get under control, because decisions are very, very emotional, especially where money is concerned. It's why some women will pay $500 for a purse, but they won't pay $49 for a membership, or, it's crazy that way. It doesn't make logical sense, and it's just emotional. So that gives you a clue there that we have to tap into the emotions of that person and what's important to them. Number 4, they really don't have the money. And, and that happens sometimes, but if you have a good lead generation system, or you really are targeting the right people in the right places, you probably won't have many of these. The ones that actually reach out to you they typically do have the money. So, but there are cases where they don't have the money. And then there are always solutions around that. You can break things up into payments, installments. You can be creative. You can give them an act now price, where it's pressure. Hey, well, if you do register today, we'll knock this amount of dollars off for your fast action price. And then number 5, they just aren't interested, or they're not even ready. So these are the reasons to object. So I want you to think about a time that you said no to a sales process. I'm going to put you into a breakout. I want you to just have a very quick chat, 5 minutes with your partner, a time that you said no, and what was it that caused you to say no? All right. All right, ladies. So let's hear what you talked about, what you shared. Who wants to go first?
I can go.
Okay.
Crystal and I talked about how we're both like very much of usually an impulse, like we want that. We're like, oh yeah, we want that. Like even putting it in our cart. And then we're like instantly that self-doubt of like, should I be spending money on this?
Right.
Comes. And so like what you had said is, it's so true. Like many times if you don't say yes right away, you're not going to go back in and buy it. And so we both talked about that of, I think just the value of what we're buying.
Right.
So like for me is huge.
Yeah. Yeah. And I just like to say it's the worthiness. It's like, I shouldn't be spending on this. And so, yeah, I mean, that's rooted deep in the whole self-worth kind of thing.
Yep.
All right. What else came up? Rachel and Amanda.
I was sharing with Amanda, the biggest time I said no was when actually you and I were first talking about Ready, Set, Succeed program. And that was a combination of I didn't have the money and I wasn't ready, because at that point in my life, my goal was to pay off debt, and I was so close, and going back into debt for a program that I wasn't quite ready for wasn't a good idea for me. But I loved how, I was telling Amanda, I said, I loved how she kept the relationship going, because we ended up doing a circle call, which was a much lower price. And then when I had the money, I did come back to her and use Ready, Set, Succeed. So I think that was a great example of keeping the relationship going, even though there was an initial no.
Yeah. Yeah. And for those of you that don't know, Ready, Set, Succeed is a premium coaching program that I run for entrepreneurs who are starting their business and they need a website and they need a bunch of done for you services. So yeah, so you weren't ready and you really didn't have the money at the time, but we did do somewhat of a downsell for you to just keep you engaged until you were ready. Yeah. So, I mean, we even understand these objections ourselves. We go through them all the time. I mean, people are constantly trying to sell to us things. And so this, holding on to this perspective and understanding that this is exactly what others are going through, it is key to us being successful in the sales conversation. So what I don't want to do is I don't want to bog you down with a bunch of facts and tips. What I do want to do is get right into the sales conversation so that we can get the training wheels off of this bicycle here and really be able to practice the conversation. So I'm going to do just a quick drive-by of the process as a refresher for everybody. And then what I'm going to have you do is whatever you sell, I'm going to have you partner up, or I'm going to have you go back in to partners with each other, because I want more people to have practice, and I'll just jump in the breakout rooms with you. Okay. And your goal is going to be to sell a service or product that you already sell. So Rachel, yours would probably be your life business. Amanda, yours would be your maybe one of your HR audit packages or something. Crystal, you've got options. It could be selling a sponsorship for Charity House or something. And then Jill, what do you want to sell?
I'll do my coaching program.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So I'm going to walk through on the worksheet the steps. There are 8 general steps here. And let me share the screen. All right, so remember, first step is to set the stage, and that means you introducing yourself. Hi, I'm Angie Nuttle. I'm so excited to be talking with you today. Here's how our conversation is going to go. I want to take some time to hear about your challenges, and I want to be able to listen to those clearly. And then I want to be able to, once I hear what's going on with you, I want to be able to check in with you and see how you're feeling about our conversation. And then if we think it's a good fit, I'll share with you what I do to help clients, and you just go into this conversation where you're doing an introduction. You're introducing yourself and what you do. You're telling them how the meeting is going to go, how the call, I'm going to listen to you. We're going to talk about what's going on. I'm going to offer some solutions. And then, we decide if we're going to work together. So you're really just outlining that for them. They want to know what to expect. So that's setting the stage. The second step is asking them to introduce themselves and why they connected with you. And so here's an example of that. Hey, tell me more about you and what inspired you to get in touch with me today. The third step, which is one of the most important steps of this whole thing, is use listening coach to diagnose. And when I say listening coach, that means that you're reflecting back, but you're also putting on the doctor's hat, and you reflect back what you're hearing, and you're asking powerful questions and making powerful statements. So that could be, okay, so what I'm hearing from you is that you're really struggling with that imposter syndrome, and it's taken a big bite out of your confidence to where you're not speaking up in meetings anymore. Is that what I'm hearing? Yes. So when did that actually begin for you? How is this impacting you? What else are you doing to gain confidence? So you're just asking a series of diagnosing questions to get all of the information from them. And then the fourth step is to really summarize what they've said in a nutshell and start to transition to the actual sales process. So, hey, what I'm hearing from our conversation today is that you've really struggled with your confidence, but you would love nothing more than to get that back so that you can step into the career path that you've always wanted to, and you want to do it with confidence, and you also want to be paid what you're worth. So is that what I'm hearing from you? Is there anything else that I'm missing? And so they know that you're hearing them. That is so important. And then the transition statement is, well, I'm certain that I can help. What would you like to do next? So this question in particular, or something like this question, is really important because you're creating psychological agreement with them. Well, I'd like to hear more about what you have to offer, instead of you forcing yourself. Well, let me tell you what all I have for you, right? You're getting that permission to move on in the sales process. So then the fifth step, this is you sharing your methodology. Well, here's how I work with clients, and here's the results that they get. So I always recommend that you name your packages. It creates a zip file for people in their heads. It makes it easier to process. And then you tell, what you offer in that package. And you also say, here's how this helps clients. Here's how this is going to help you in your situation. Just like you were telling me you were struggling speaking up in meetings. In this package, here's what we're going to work on. We have this assessment, we have these coaching sessions. So you're really tying it to them. Once you go through that, that's when you introduce the investment without missing a beat. So the investment for this experience is $4,000. And here's what you get with that. You're going to get, the end result is that you're going to be walking more in confidence. You're going to position yourself to get that promotion that you deserve, and blah, blah, blah. So you're going to tell them the investment. And then the seventh step is to lead them to payment. So you do have the option of paying in installments. I do offer flexible payment plans if you need that. You don't have to go through all of it right then, but you want to put that out there to them as a possibility. And then I normally say, so I want to pause for a moment. I want to get your reaction to what I've said. So you give them the chance to process that. Wow, that's a lot of money. Or this is usually where the objections might come up. And, I'm not sure I can pay $4,000. Well, the great news is we do have flexible payment plans. So we could, this down payment would actually get you started. And these are keywords here. You're answering the questions, but you're also saying, this is what's going to get us started. And I know that you want to get started. I mean, people, they like to take action. They want things to change for their situation. And so getting started is very appealing. And so this is the basis of the sales conversation. And we're going to try to walk through it. So Jill, since you weren't on here last week, I recommend that your partner, I'll put you with Amanda.
Okay.
And Amanda, probably you need to walk through your sales conversation with Jill first so that she understands how it works. And then Rachel and Crystal, I'll put you together to walk through your sales conversation, okay?
I have a quick question, Angie.
Yep.
If it's okay. So sometimes, well, most times what I do, I'm not usually talking about price in the sales call.
Yep.
I'm usually getting the scope and then sending them a quote later.
Right.
I mean, do you recommend scheduling a second call to give them the quote and review it, or sending them and then scheduling, like, how do you, that way you can address objections. You're not just giving it to them and then they have their own way they're reacting to it and you aren't part of that process.
Yeah, so first of all, I mean, there is a time when you would want to give them a quote, and if there's lots of customization, that would be, that would be an ideal time to say, all right, I'm going to take all of this, I'm going to put it into a proposal for you and send it back, and I'd like to walk through it with you. So if you can get them, if you can say, I'd like to walk through the quote with you to, explain what my rationale is, that's fine. I'm looking at, I mean, you've got HR auditing packages, I mean, you could very easily still try to say, well, I do have an auditing package. It's, it has all of these things already in it. And here is the price tag. If you can do that on the call, without having to go back and rework it, then I would recommend that. So
Sure. Yeah.
But I understand, especially if it's, if it's a 6-figure contract, I do, I have never walked someone through the sales process and knowing that it was going to be a 6-figure customization. I have always said, let me think through this and put a strategy around this. That's very thoughtful, but I think usually anything that's under 6 figures, you could probably put out a quote there.
Yeah. So what you're saying is systematize your routine things, and as much as you can.
Yeah.
Are going to be things that are going to be customized. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if somebody has contacted you, they want a consult call and they need an audit in there very quickly, I would go ahead and be prepared and say, well, I have my premium HR audit package. Here's what it comes with. You get your I-9s, you get a file check, blah, blah, blah. So, this is something that we could implement right away. It's X number of dollars. And, I would just go ahead and move forward. And then, I mean, if you know that they might want a few customizations, you could just simply add on to that. We can customize for you, but it will change the investment because, we're adding an extra time investment here. I'd be happy to work that quote for you. Hey, Tiffany.
Hey.
Hey, we are getting ready to go into breakouts, and we're going to practice sales conversations. So I'll put you in with a group, and one of your members can go first so you can get the hang of what we're doing. I will send you our document. This is the same one that we've been working on for the last 3 weeks. We've just moved through it. All right, so our goal is to pick one person to walk through to sell their package to you. And we'll give you about 15 minutes to do this. I will be jumping back and forth in between the groups just to hear how things are going. And then we'll come back and debrief and do feedback and questions, okay? All right, ladies. Well, how did your sales conversation go?
Good. I was ready to buy.
What? What'd you say, Jill?
I said I was ready to buy. Like
I was gonna say, I think
help.
Amanda handled it very, very well. I was just a fly on the wall, but I was like, this is going well.
You were taking me back to my Hamilton days when I was in my corporate job of trade shows and events, and I was telling you all the stuff that was going on there.
Real deal stuff.
Like,
Yeah, that felt really genuine. Yeah, we didn't get to money though. We almost got there. We were just getting ready to get to price, but it was really, I don't know. I thought it was a good conversation. I don't know, Jill, how you felt about that.
No, I did. Thought it was great.
Okay, so let's give some specific feedback on what was effective.
I felt heard in
Great.
the pitch, that Amanda heard my concerns and she was addressing the challenges, reiterating how she could help me with those challenges.
Yeah.
And options.
I
Okay.
know I missed the first half, so you can correct me if I'm wrong, Angie, but from what I gathered, like she was supposed to be moving through this process. I could see her doing that, but it didn't feel like she was moving through that process. Like it's like she was doing everything, but I could see how Jill would feel heard, because it really felt like a organic conversation.
Yeah, I mean, in this process, we were talking about this beforehand, but this process is really, where's that feedback coming from?
Oh, it's probably me on mute.
Okay, there we go. This process is really designed to build the relationship, to put the potential client first, to really hear what their challenges are, and then step into, okay, so here's the summary of what I've heard from you. You know, what would you like to do next? You get the psychological agreement, and then you really go into the sales process. That has been my formula for success. It's been the way that I genuinely connect with people, and people, they really appreciate that. I mean, and you know, they want to know, and especially if you're a coach or you're an HR consultant, they want to know that you're going to hear them. So you got to show them up front that, yes, I do hear you. You know, I'm not going to take over the process and just say, I'm going to give you this, and, you know, we're going to fix this, and I'm slapping this on you. Yeah, they don't want that. They want to get to know you first. And it's oddly enough, they get to know you by you listening to them. They learn about your style. All right. Anything else that you saw was effective? And this can be for any of us. Anything that was effective in the process for you?
I think what was helpful to me is that Jill and I both were prepared. Like she knew what her problems were. She knew kind of what she wanted to solve. She just wasn't sure how to do that. So I think, I don't know, I guess what I'm thinking about is the pre-communication with your client. Maybe there's an element of letting them know what we're going to talk about and what they could do, you know, to bring to the meeting. So you both can be equally prepared for kind of that conversation. So you're not having to, well, I'll get back to you on that. You know, so there's probably some things your client maybe could do, potential client, to help you ahead of time, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and that brings up a great point, because when you're setting appointments on your, well, like a lot of us use Calendly, you have the ability, if you have the premium account of that, you can put questions in, you know, pre-qualifying questions in that to ask them, you know, to narrow down what they're going to want to talk about, what their challenges are. I have, whenever I am selling my premium programs, I will qualify people in those things. You know, I'll ask them what their challenges are. I will ask them, my programs start at X number of dollars. Is that a number that you know, if we decide we want to work together, is that a number that, you know, you're willing to invest in yourself? So that's a question. And it has done a really good job of filtering out the ones who they're not, you know, they're just kind of playing around. But it has gotten the appointments that I really need to be talking to. So that's a rule of thumb that I have.
Angie, I also wanted to add about Calendly. If you have the premium version, I started doing this. You can send out like emails the like day before or whatever, and you can customize those. So I started kind of including, I think I do it 24 hours before, like a reminder, but I tell them kind of what to expect in that initial consult.
Yeah. Yeah, and I do recommend like a 24-hour, a 12-hour, and a 1 hour before, just as a, hey, just a reminder, I'm excited about our call. Here's what we're going to be talking about. I can't wait to talk to you, or whatever your your pitch is there. Okay, we've got 1 minute left, but I do want to hear, what is something that you've learned about the sales process just from today? Or even something that you feel more comfortable with?
It has to be a dialogue, not a monologue.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's something that we talked about, that most people, when they're selling, they start off with, here's everything that I have. Let me just give it to you and throw it up on you. And people, they want you to get to know them first. What else? What's something that you learned today?
I think having the script in front of me was helpful. Like, I did much better. It was very smooth because I had pre-written some statements, but then also had the steps in front of me and really just tried to work my way through that. So
Yep.
I don't typically do that during a sales call. So that's something I'm going to start doing.
Yeah, I still do it. I'm a visual person, and I like to have my formula right in front of me, just so that I make sure that I stay on track, because I can get lost in somebody's words. Oh, wow, that was pretty traumatic. I will get right in there with them, and then, okay, where am I at in the process? So it's a good visual reminder to have in front of you. What else? Something that you learned today?
I have to jump off as I have a 1 o'clock, but I just want to say I love to just reiterate how present you need to be. Like, that's why I think Amanda and I's was so good, is just being present for them and hearing their challenges, hearing what they really need before selling to them. Because
Right.
I think I've been doing it backwards. Here's
too.
how all the ways that I can help serve you. Oh, you really don't need that part. So
Right. Yeah.
well, I could do this too. So
That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Yeah. Hear what they need before you tell them what you've got for them.
Yep. Love it. Thank you so much.
All right, ladies.
See
Well, we're
ya.
going to go ahead and jump off, because I've got some things going on too, but hopefully this was helpful. Corporate Connect is Friday at 9 a.m. So love for you to jump on, meet new members, and get connected Friday on Zoom.